on this computer. Okay, it's recording now. Okay. So, another cute little PowerPoint. So we're going to talk about how to online debate or just like what I would recommend. But just like tips about online debating, okay? So, first off, I just want to talk about the pros and the cons of online debating. So, the cons, so a couple things is first of all, you can't travel, which I feel like especially for people that are like just beginning, the fun part and like where you make memories, that is in traveling. So I think that's going to be really tough for the community as a whole, and like also retention. Like I feel like at my school specifically, I feel like a lot of like we're not going to have a lot of novice or freshmen stay around because we're not going to travel, which is like where a lot of the fun memories happen. And there's no money for programs. And what I mean by that is like if your school has their own tournament, so like my school, Bentonville West, we have like a invitational, and that's where we make like a majority of our like money and funds. And we're not going to be able to do that this year. So, because it's just too expensive to host like online tournaments for us. So anyway, that's going to hurt some smaller programs. Less team bonding because you're not in person, clearly. And technical difficulties do happen. So that's the cons. But I like to think there's a lot of pros. So first off, everything is so much cheaper. You can like literally like go to basically any tournament because it's the same entry fee, or it's a cheaper entry fee than it was previously. And so you can sign up for a tournament that's in California, even though you like would never have actually gone to California. And also you don't have to pay for food because you're at your house, and you don't have to pay for a hotel room. So it's just a lot cheaper, which is nice, especially if your team doesn't have much money. Yeah, and then I talked about how you can go to like farther away tournaments. So that's awesome. And so you have more opportunities to like bid, more opportunities to compete. Like I know our like schedule is like so much, like we have so many more tournaments than we previously would have had. So that's cool. And you have more time to prep. I think what I mean by this is I think like most schools are going to be online at some point during the year. And so that's nice because you can have more time to like cut cards and stuff. Cause I think online school isn't as much work, but not necessarily. Also like travel, you're not like going to and from school, so that cuts off time, or going to whatever. So I think overall we all have more free time, which can have more time to prep for debate. And also I think you have a better mental health situation, because I think debate can be really harmful for your mental health in some ways. And I think being able to be at home and being able to not be as like, because you're cutting out so much travel time and transportation that you're not wasting as like you're not taking it's debate isn't going to take up as much time, which therefore you won't be as stressed out because you're going to have more time. So that's that. So some logistics about it if you are kind of confused, like how do online debate tournaments work. So basically for the like NSDA nationals, that's the only online tournament I've been to, but I think most like tournaments are copying their setup and like their logistics and everything they did. So they had a website, and it would have like all the events. And so if you're in interpretation or like in a filmed event, you just film yourself, and that video is judged by everyone every single round, which is honestly kind of nice if you do inter, because then you can get your best like performance every single round. But I don't think you're going to learn as much that way in inter. But anyway, and then for debate, so it'll have like all the debate events. So if you were in policy, you'd click policy debate, and then on tab room, it'll have your room number. So if it was like X17, you find X17 and you like push that on your computer, and then it'll give you a Zoom link, and then you get on the Zoom link, and you and your opponent and your partner and the judge will all be on that Zoom. And so then you're all in the same Zoom, and then you debate like normal. It's just on Zoom. So that is basically it. And yeah, and so I think it's like not that complicated, and I think it was easy to understand and figure out. So that's that. And so then earlier y'all were asking about how are you going to communicate with your partner if you're not in the same place. And if you're both on the same Zoom call, like how are you going to communicate with them? And so what I would recommend, and I think other people would recommend, is to FaceTime your partner and then mute your partner whenever you're speaking or whenever like one of you is asking questions or whatever, and then unmute yourselves whenever the other people are speaking. But make sure you're muted on Zoom, because we had some problems where you weren't muted and then you say something like talking about the other team. That isn't good. So don't do that. But yeah, and then if you don't like have an iPhone or you can't FaceTime, you can just do Google Hangouts, and I think that works pretty well as well. Or you could do a Zoom on your phone, whatever. But I think you really need to be able to FaceTime or do something like that with your partner to be able to communicate with them. And it's also, you should also practice online tournament, like online rounds before you go to your first tournament, because it's really complicated to listen to a debate, but also try to talk to your partner on FaceTime. Like for me, I would have my earbuds in and I was trying to listen like to my partner, and it was just really complicated, and it's hard to do that. Like to have two audio going in at once compared to like when you're in person, it's all like a similar audio. So yeah, that's FaceTiming your partner. Also, I said flowing on paper. I don't recommend that you flow on your computer. I just don't recommend it. I know it's kind of tempting, especially because like everything else is on your computer, but I would recommend you still flow on paper, because I think flowing on your computer is going to slow you down, and it's not as easy to like flip or look at it. So yeah. And then some other things that you should have, or I would recommend, is you have a clean desk area. If your desk is really messy or if your desk is really small, it's going to be hard to do that. Also, like if you're wondering, do I stand up to speak? Like if you have a table tote, do you like put your computer on the table tote to speak, or do you sit down? I think if you're spreading, you should probably stand up, because your lungs are like collapse kind of whenever you're sitting down, and so you're not going to be able to be as fast or like breathe better. But if you're not, I think if you're not spreading, if you're doing like PF or just not spreading in policy or literally any other debate event, I think you can sit down and it sounds good. Because also like it's really complicated to like pick your computer up whenever you're standing up so everyone can see you, blah blah blah. Anyway, so clean desk, and yeah. Also have a quiet area in your house. I was in a couple debate rounds where there were like a bunch of noises going on at other people's houses. There was like construction at one point. There was like their like little sisters and brothers were like running around, and they were trying to give their speech. And so I know that like some people, like if everyone in your house, like if you have a big family, everyone's in your house, it's going to be hard to find a quiet area. So that's tough. And I think that creates another form of inequity in the debate space, because like it's hard to listen to someone, but also like everyone is at your house because of Corona. So I don't know. But if you can, try to find like a little corner, a little place in your house that you can do it without a bunch of distractions. Or just like ask your family to be quiet for 1 hour whenever you're having a debate round. Yeah. Okay. Also, tell your family your schedule. Make sure they're on the same page as you, so they can like not barge into your room when you're trying to debate or whatever. So yeah, that's some logistics tips. Is there any questions so far about like logistics? No? Okay. So next I am wanting to talk about like planning the tournaments you're going to go to now. If your team hasn't, or if you like have a debate team, if they haven't like released a like tentative schedule of what you think, you should be like just have like look around at, because like on Tab Room there's a bunch of online tournaments right now for like all of fall semester, so you should look at that and try to get an idea of what tournaments you want to go to. And then also, because tournaments are online, a lot of tournaments are having where you can kind of sign up to go to a tournament without your entire school going. And I think for some you have to have your principal's signature. For some you just need like your parents' signature. So that could be worth looking into if your school isn't going to all the bid tournaments that you would like to, because it's online, so your school doesn't have to come with you. Yeah. So also, if you have a partner, you should sit down with them before school starts and talk about like what tournaments you want to go to, what are your goals, like how hard are you willing to work, like if you're a senior, a junior, whatever, if like this year's going to be stressful for you because of blah blah blah, maybe you should communicate with that with them. Also, since tournaments are going to be online, I think some people just might dip. Like I don't know, like I just think some people, like, the reason they do debate is to travel and to like go to new places, blah blah blah. And so you should communicate with your partner and be like, hey, do you still want to do online debate, and figure out all of that. Or if you have new obligations now that because of coronavirus, like, yeah, I don't know, whatever your obligations are, just communicate with your partner before the season starts, because I know there's a lot of tournaments starting in September, which is like a month away. So yeah, so that's that. Also, you should definitely practice with online formats. Again, what I was saying, I had practiced with online formats before I went to the online tournament, and I think if I hadn't like been able to work Zoom correctly, that it would have been bad. And so I think you and your partner should practice like debating other teams, debating other teams through Zoom. And if you don't have another like cross XPF whatever team from your school, you should just like contact people. I know like my school, we don't have like a bunch of different people in different events. So like usually like who are the novice going to debate, like the varsity, you know? And so you should just contact other schools in your area. If you have friends, contact them from other states, and I'm sure like someone would want to debate you. And also because things are online, I think it'll be easier to schedule a debate round like at like in the afternoon after school or something. So yeah, that's it. Also, you should practice speaking online, because speaking online is different. You need to like figure out how to look at the camera correctly. And I know that sounds dumb, but like it actually is important where you're not staring at your opponent's screen. So it makes sure you're looking at your camera. You should also figure out, like, I was watching a YouTube video from Michigan Debate Camp, and it was talking about like the tone of your voice is different on the computer, and your like inflection and speed. And so you should maybe just like film yourself and practice listening to yourself to make sure you still sound good. So yeah. Again, you should communicate with your partner, your team, your coach to figure out like what your plans are for this year, because I think you should be planning in advance. You have more time to prep. I already talked about that. And so I think this can help people a lot to have a little bit more free time to be able to prep. Speaking, you should learn how to speak well online. It's not the same as in person. Also, you need to learn how to communicate with your partner in an online format. Or if you're planning to like go to each other's houses during tournaments, that's cool too. But you just need to figure that out. I think that's it. Okay. So I'll exit out of this. Does anybody have any questions?